Hello, welcome to the Jenkins Documentation Office Hours. Today is July 24th, and around the table we have myself, Kevin Martins, Bruno Verhofstadt, Chris Stern, and Meg McRoberts. Beer sheet's still on the agenda for now. We'll leave him on there, but if he doesn't join up, I'll just remove him from the list later. That being said, for today's agenda, we got the contributor spotlight. Just some notes about Java 25 documentation. Nothing about the documentation itself, but just where Jenkins is at with Java 25. Jan Farachik's new blog post. An update to the sponsorship blog post that we had last time. Some notes on Google Summer of Code 2025. I don't know that there's been any advancement on the Chinese documentation stuff, but we'll check in with Chris when we get there. Good first issues. I wanted to discuss the Google Summer of Docs label and what that might be, the resolution for that. The LTS on weekly releases, recent work on Jenkins.io. The success story and adopters there, just more so for posterity and just keeping that fresh. Linux Foundation stuff that we discussed last session. Mark's not here, so we might table that for this week. I'm just going to move it to the bottom of the list for now. Removing the Java 11 upgrade instructions, which we did reach a resolution for, which I'm really excited about there. Wiki migration redirects, nothing new there, so I'll probably bump that a little bit as well. Plugin developer docs, Blue Ocean deprecation, those topics we've just been carrying, making sure if they're there, if we have any new advancements, but to my knowledge, there haven't been any, so probably just kind of briefly touch on them if we have time. We'll see what happens by the end there. Is there any other topics or anything that I want to make sure that we touch on today that I haven't outlined already? Okay, cool. All right, thanks, Meg. And welcome, Beer Sheet. Good to see you again.
Hi all.
So for contributor spotlight, so just like last time, we want to just make sure that it was highlighted that Meg's currently the featured spotlight, which is really great to have. And then I was able to follow up with Alyssa about the other potential spotlight folks. We actually got a few responses, so I'm working on those right now and planning to. I think right now we have 3 more that are in the pipeline. So I'm hoping that hear back from one in terms of their review and draft. Worst case scenario, I'm going to be working on the other 2 in the meantime. So if someone doesn't respond, there's no set order right now. It's just a matter of who kind of gets back to me sooner than later, and we can publish there. It is getting towards the end of the month, so I want to try and get it out before the end of July. But if we're a couple of days after the fact, we'll lose sleep over it. That's okay. And then once we wrap up Google Summer of Code and kind of moving towards the fall, the 3 spotlights that we have right now that'll carry us through to the fall anyway. So maybe after Hacktoberfest, we'll have even more. But Alyssa's still working on some other folks and following up with other people. And yeah, more to come on that. But we're back to a spot where we have a few in waiting. So that's great. As far as the Java 25 doc stuff goes, there's no documentation needs right at this moment. Full Java 25 supports planned for fall 25. But the thing to note here is that ci.jenkins.io is using Java 25 in its agents. So the early access Java 25 is starting to be incorporated into Jenkins, but it's not in the full build. It's not available in core or anything like that as of yet. So we are going to start looking at the Java 25 documentation and what we need there eventually, but not in the next month or so. Bruno, is there anything to note on Java 25 support in terms of like Jenkins as a whole beyond ci.jenkins.io or
you said
Most of it, in fact. So lately, the infra team has been working on making the Java 25 early access available on ti.jenkins.io. So if ever you plugin maintainer and you want to see what's going on with Java 25, you can give it a go. You just have to use the build plugin with Java 25 in your Jenkins file, and it works out of the box. That's pretty cool. And we also have some automatic updates so that whenever a new version of the early access arrives, we are able to use it transparently. Mark and I do some tests in order to see if the 250 most installed plugins work with Java 25. And most of them do with a few modifications. But as a plugin maintainer, if you want to test the waters with Java 24, there is just one thing you should do, which is using the latest Jenkins form. So if you're using 5.18, you're good to go. Your plugin should compile with Java 24, which is a nice foundation for Java 25. And we'll start a campaign somehow during autumn to help and migrate the 250 most installed plugins to Java 25.
Great. Thank you very much, Bruno. Appreciate that. Yeah, I want to make sure that we touch base on anything that it might touch or might be available because I wasn't 100% sure beyond CI using it, what that meant for availability. So that's great. Thank you for clearing that up.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda, so this is the latest blog post from Jan Faracek. This is the Redesigning Jenkins part 2. So part 1 was talking about the challenges and the background of what it takes to update Jenkins. This is going over what changes have been made in Jenkins UI specifically. So Jan and Darren Pope hosted a live stream last week that was really great. They went over a lot of the notable changes and updates to the Jenkins header, the Jenkins site redesign, a lot of the UI. So um, just a really nice output from Jan here in terms of going over all the changes, kind of explaining the changes and some kind of what the plans are for the future to some degree. There is still way more to come with this. This is just kind of the beginning of the changes. There is some more UI design improvements that Jan, Tim, others in the UI SIG plan on implementing for stuff like jobs and building and other more developer focused areas. So there's more to come with that. But it's just a really great way to highlight the work that's being done and the changes that have come along with the latest LTS release that was just yesterday of 2.516.1 and the most recent handful of weekly releases. So this is fantastic. I've included a link to the live stream here as well. This is on the Jenkins YouTube channel. This is our first live stream. Seemed to have gone really well. We got a lot of viewers, and Jan and Darren hosted it really well. Darren's always really great about hosting these live streams and providing a lot of insight into the changes and a lot of the things going on. Having Jan to kind of bounce all that stuff back and forth off of was really great as well. So I just want to make sure we highlight that. And then in line with the redesign Jenkins stuff, the UI refresh. So I've been working on updating images within the documentation to reflect the updated UI. I've got a tracking sheet here that it's like, please don't judge me for it. It's pretty simple, but I've just been trying to find and replace all the screenshots that need to be updated, whether that means brand new screenshots, whether that means reusing the same screenshots, but maybe focusing them more to remove anything that's not necessary. So for instance, one of the things that Jan points out in the and one of the changes is the the revamped pipeline visualization, but you also get a sneaky preview of the updated header. So screenshots that were using the old breadcrumb navigation or the old header, if it's not necessary, but the UI still matches, then it's very straightforward to just remove that unnecessary piece to it. Um, However, a lot of the UI changes have come since the screenshots were taken originally. So for the most part, I'm just replacing them. This may be something we can do for good first issues, but it's kind of been something I've been working on for a little bit now, and I'm also working on other parts of this outside of just this. So it's a little bit more. There's a lot more moving pieces to it than I'm might be letting on here. But yeah,
Kevin, sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
would it be too late if we just store that work for Hacktoberfest? I guess yes, it would be too late.
I mean, it's not too late. I mean, as you can see from my spreadsheet, I've only done a handful of these. Um, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's more so, uh, I don't know how comfortable I am letting it sit that much longer at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's like the one thing, because I was thinking about this earlier. Hacktoberfest was something we discussed earlier in the advocacy and outreach meeting. Um, and it's not the worst thing in the world. This is something that we've done in years previously as well. Um,
Mhm.
so it's not a bad idea at all. And it might be great to have just because it's a low hanging fruit. It's easy enough. It's something anyone can do. We want the barrier to entry for Hacktoberfest to be as low as possible in that sense. So,
Yeah, but if ever you need some help in order to spread the load, just let us know because it's useful for the end user. But boy, it's boring.
I'm not gonna argue one way or another on that part, but,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's a fair amount of work to do, and, it's not you're right, it's very straightforward, it's very easy, it's not hard, but it is a good amount of things to, adjust. My other concern is just making sure that the documentation alongside of it is getting updated too. Something I've been noticing as I'm doing this is that screenshots can sometimes hang over some of the other text or like be right up against section headers, for instance, or
Mm.
hang over code blocks a little bit. So I've been actually trying to implement a hard line break for some of these things just to give it space and let it breathe a little bit. But yeah, I think saving some work for Hacktoberfest isn't the worst thing in the world.
Okay, and thanks a lot for the spreadsheet, by the way. Do you enter some metadata, some stuff? I had to change that because of whatever. Because I don't know if this spreadsheet could be reused in case of we will face another UI change, or if it's just one shot.
So this is specifically just things that have either the old header or the old left navigation pane, primarily because Managed Jenkins is now in the header up in the right-hand corner of the new UI and not in the left. But I mean, I'm going into these pages and like mainly focusing on the things that need to be updated for in that regard. This is not a very extensive list. You can see there's only 47 entries. There's way more pages with screenshots than that. It could be something we reuse, but I mean, I feel like half the problem is this is something that I worked on myself. So all the, like the relevant information's in my brain and nowhere else. And I need to share that somehow. But
Yeah.
it's like but it is simple enough that it could definitely be reused or, like, if we decide to use it for Hacktoberfest, I could absolutely clean this up and, like, make it more easily, like, identifiable what needs to happen, that kinda thing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you remember that last year we had a proposed project for GSOC, which was around generating automatically screenshots, but it
Yep.
didn't get selected because we didn't have any enough slots, I think. And now it looks to me like a daydream, or maybe I just didn't understand, but it would be like magic being able to recreate the right screenshot with the latest LTS version for each and every case. Because, for example, if you had this magic tool this time,
Mhm.
maybe it would work with regenerating the screenshot, but the text would be wrong and we wouldn't know about it.
And I mean, at the end of the day, if it creates a pull request to update this, that's on the reviewers to make sure that it's,
Yeah.
correct in terms of the context. There would have to be some kind of caveat to all of this and saying like, "Oh, if this is a generated screenshot, please review the text around it," just like a warning. Uh,
Mhm.
I will say though that, Darren Pope has been, saying, he's, like, been thinking about a way to have that, screenshot, generation happen automatically, like build something that would do that. So
Mm.
if anyone would be able to do it. I think Darren would be a great person because he knows the ins and outs of it, operating it, what to look for, all that stuff. It's more of a whether or not he has the capacity and bandwidth to actually like do that anytime soon, or if that's like a dream that he has that we can talk about further. But um, yeah, the automatic screenshots would be great, but yeah, it does require it's on the own that puts the responsibility on the reviewer of making sure that that's correct. From not only a screenshot perspective, but the context around it, the text explaining this to users. Because I mean, even like I'll, admit I made a boo-boo, and, I updated a screenshot for something, and while I was going through the sheet and updating it again, I realized that I did not update the text accordingly, so bad Kevin, no good. But, um, that I mean, like, that's the mistakes are gonna happen, of course, but, it's like it's leaving it up to chance is not my favorite thing in the world, but, like, what can we utilize a tool to help us in this sort of, menial work at the end of the day? So,
Thank you, Kevin.
yeah, no, thank you, Bruno, I appreciate that. Um, any other thoughts, suggestions, questions, concerns about this before we move on to the next topic? Mm. Okay. Alright. So next up on the agenda, we talked about this last time, the Your Kit and JetBrains sponsorships. Um, Thanks to Alex Brandes for writing up these blog posts highlighting these sponsorships. Your Kit and JetBrains both provide licenses for different things respectively. JetBrains provides it for their products, which includes IntelliJ, which is an IDE that myself and a lot of other documentation writers use for text editing and stuff like that. Your kit does Java profiling and allows for testing and kind of data purposes, which is really great. But these are all free licenses. They are providing free licenses. If you're curious about it, check out the blog posts, or you can reach out to Alex via his email, which is in his GitHub profile. Just ask him directly, and he can help get you set up with the license for that. Something that wasn't there last time was the AWS sponsorship. So AWS has once again provided Jenkins with $60,000 of credits, support, sponsorship, whatever you want to consider that as, which is fantastic and really wonderful of them to continue supporting the project. So thanks to AWS. This was really important because we recently migrated. The Infra team recently migrated ci.jenkins.io from Azure to AWS. So having that continued sponsorship, having those credits, having that ability to do that is really, really important. That ensured there was no drop in service or any issues with the Jenkins functionality, and they were able to take care of it before there was any sort of issue with the Azure credits running out. But we don't want to cut it too close at that point. So having the flexibility, thanks to AWS, was really great and super important. Um, if you're curious about that, again, we have another blog. We put a blog post for it. Um, the infra team meetings go into more in depth about what some of that means. And we'll talk about those sort of things at more length since it directly affects them. We're always welcome to join those, but if you can't, there's a little high level for you. So continued thanks to AWS for their sponsorship. Next up is Google Summer Code 2025. So we just had our midterm presentations yesterday. Things went really well. The recording of all 5 presentations will be available later and linked in the Google Summer of Code page. And we're going to start having our midterm blog post recaps from the contributors come out. We've got 2 that are available right now. One's from Birajit on the build retooling of Jenkins.io, and the other is from Giovanni Vaccarino from building an AI-powered chatbot. Giovanni and Birgit both gave their presentations yesterday in the midterm, which is really great. Good to see. Yeah, we'll once we have the recording available, we'll be sure to post that and publish that, and we'll share that out on our socials as well, I'm sure, just to make sure that everyone gets a chance to see that. There are 3 other participants that, hopefully they'll be able to put their blog posts together as well. But these are just really nice high level overviews of what work's been done in the last couple months, which is, um, a lot. It's a lot of work. Just immense thanks to the participants, the contributors for all their continued work and their continued effort. We're now in the second half of GSOC officially. So we're looking at what the next month is going to look like, what that work's going to end up being. And yeah, and then, as usual, we'll have recaps from the participants after the fact, what they're kind of just reviewing their projects and the work that they've done over the whole process. So, thank you to the contributors, thank you to the mentors, thank you to the org admins, thank you to everyone involved in the GSOC process. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of behind the scenes work in addition to the coding and other development work that happens. So, it takes a village. Chris, is there any news or updates for the Chinese documentation site, or are you still at the same point right at this?
I think I'm more or less at the same point because I'm waiting for waiting until after we've done more work for the retooling project first because I'm gonna mirror what exactly what we've done for that project for the Chinese side.
Right. Okay.
Y- Okay.
Cool. Yeah, no, so yeah. So the retooling project's going on. That's gonna help kind of dictate where things go from there and what we utilize on that as well. So yeah. No, that makes sense. Thanks, Chris. So there's some good first issue action on Jenkins.io. So thanks to Meg for creating a couple of those good first issues. I really appreciate that. Um, and then there's been some actual activity in the
Oh, just for more.
yeah, no, that sounds perfect. There's been some activity in here even, for some folks looking for things to do and things to work on. So, it's good to see that there's some engagement there. One of the good first issues lately, that Meg created was removing the Google Summer Docs label, which has sparked its own little discussion. So I wanted to bring it here and talk about it because there's multiple thoughts on this, and I don't know that anyone is more right than the other in this sort of thing or more valid. Everything makes sense to me, so I want to kind of open it up. But the long and short of it is Google Summer of Docs is over. It's not a program anymore. Meg's issue is that we should remove the Google Summer of Docs label completely from the repo. I thought,
Yeah.
hey,
No, I just meant I literally meant the label.
oh, just like
It gets used
deleting the
yeah.
label.
Yeah, I totally agree. I do not want the string scrubbed from the repo.
Okay.
I'm just think we don't there's no reason why any issue should be tagged as GSOD at this point.
Totally. Okay. That makes more sense.
Yeah. I don't think there's any disagreement. No, I see label. Very explicit. Label not string.
Yeah. So I guess like so with that
You were very diplomatic. I would say I do not think that the string should be removed from the
so I
you
guess
sure.
where would that so just removing it from this label list here?
Right. Like if you go into an issue and check like if you're gonna add a label to it, then you'll get GSOD and type G if you're going for good.
Like okay, just getting rid of this one here.
That it's only yes, I'm only talking about that. It's
Okay. Okay. That makes way more sense. So, and I think we can all agree that that's probably fine to delete at this point because it's not like you said, it's not relevant. It's not a program anymore. That one's fine to just get rid of, I think.
and I think we all agree that we do not want the string scrubbed from other places, right? Blog posts and
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and Chris even said like just keeping it for historical purposes, making sure that it's available in those senses. Yeah, yeah.
you don't
We're all
know me well, but I keep everything for historical purposes. I would delete nothing if you left me alone. That's why I always have to have adult supervision near me. So
same. It's okay. I get
yeah.
that.
So that's
Okay.
good, yes.
Okay. Cool. So then, I'll take care of that once we wrap up. I'll just get rid of that, um, because that's simple enough, and I have the permissions to do that. I can take care of that. Um, Cool. Okay, great. Thank you very much for pointing that out, Meg. I missed that entirely. Or I
I was
interpreted it.
doing casual, it just struck me.
Yeah. I interpreted it as the label in the Jenkins.io, like these, uh, like this label here. And so,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. There's multiple labels that it could fall under. So, but
They
that
reuse
helps.
terms so much. The
I'm
whole
sorry.
industry does, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, the reuse is kind of tough, but that clears everything up. I'll go ahead and read that from the repo.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Cool. Alrighty then. So that takes care of that. So then LTS and weekly releases. So again, as I mentioned earlier, just yesterday we had LTS 2.516.1 come out. The changelog and upgrade guide are available on the site as expected. And I want to say thank you to Meg, Mark, and Tinjacombe for feedback and help with creating the documentation. The upgrade guide highlights a lot of the changes with the UI, as well as some additional changes and updates. Things like the passwords, if utilizing for that Spring Security helps enforce. A couple other changes and some user configuration stuff. These are all good things to have, but yeah, just thanks for the help on that. And then again, the live stream with Darren and Jan that happened last week to prepare for that. And then Darren and Mark are doing their usual What's New live stream or video today. So I'm sure that'll be up later. But yeah, just a lot of good stuff there. Thank you again for all the help and guidance and feedback on that and getting that taken care of. And then in addition to that, we had our 2 weekly releases, both 2.509 and 2.520 came out between last office hours and today. So that's been great. And then just to keep it on here, the Jenkins Security Advisory from July 9th. It only affects plugins, but I want to make sure that that's still visible if anyone hasn't gotten a chance to see that yet. Next up, I wanted to highlight the work done for Jenkins.io lately. So thanks to Nitin Gupta for updating the configuring the system docs so that it matches the UI. Thanks to Stefan Merrill for adding a note about HTTPS redirection for the mirrors documentation that's been getting updated and adjusted from both Damien and Stefan now. Thanks to Shenzhen Yang for updating the stash retention documentation. It was a suggestion about the title. Thanks to Ipshita Patel for fixing the thank you image size. So that's referring to the thank you note at the bottom of the Jenkins page is this guy right here. So thanks to Ipshita for that. Thanks from Mark for updating the Condorcet voting link that was not functioning properly since they changed. And finally, thanks to Josh Saref for correcting the putty org links. They weren't directing to the correct site. Now they're updated so that they're actually going to the putty site. So thank you for that. The latest success story and adopter, that was something that we added last time. Again, just for visibility's sake, I want to bring it with us. And then we're almost out of time for today. Since a lot of the other topics are no news with them, I just wanted to highlight the removing Java 11 upgrade instructions. So we've closed that issue. Thanks again to Birgit for opening that in the first place. And so we've resolved this. I was able to talk with Mark, and I think we discussed it last time, but basically, we've removed the Java 11 instructions from the actual navigation, but we've included it in the index page so that it's still findable and searchable, and it'll make some kind of response when there's a search for it. But it's not something we're promoting, and I've made sure to have this little note here say that this is not supported. So we're not misguiding anyone, we're not misinforming anyone, but if for one reason or another someone wants to update incrementally, we're not discouraging them from making too big of a jump that they don't want to make. So thanks to Mark for that discussion and for that idea. And yeah, I'm glad we were able to get that all resolved and closed out. So, oh, and I actually, you know what? Just really quickly, since it's something small, Mark asked last session about adding a little pixel to the page for some tracking purposes. And so Mark added that to a few of our author profiles, and I've been clicking on it here and there just to try, or like going to my author page and going to Bruno's author page and stuff, just to hopefully give some more info to Mark. But Mark's not here, so we can't ask how that's going or if there's any notable data to find out from there. So we'll check in next time. More to come on that, but yeah, that covers everything I had for the agenda today. Does anyone have anything they want to share? Thoughts they want to put out there before we wrap up?
Yeah, plan a thought in 60 seconds. The discussion
Yeah.
will be much longer. Daniel Beck posted a comment on asked our question, asking what happens to user comments that are put on pages. And Mark, it sounds like Mark in his copious free time occasionally goes in and looks at them and tries to deal with some of them or something. This struck me as maybe a process that we could clean up a little bit. And I had some ideas, and I just thought I'd plant the idea so everybody could be thinking about it. I mean, I can see just a very, we could all go through, but it'd be really cool if those automatically generated an issue and put a response to I don't know if we can respond to comments or not in there, and respond. So if the user went back to see what happened to it, they would find the issue number and could track any app traffic in there. And then an issue, I mean, we could say, the user's dead wrong about this or something, and look and see maybe there's something on the page that's confusing. We could do all the things you can do when you're managing issues.
No, actually, thank you very much for bringing that up, man, because I did want to talk about that and I forgot to add it to the agenda. Um, so I don't know what the process looks like between someone clicking submit feedback and it going to where it goes to, but it literally just goes to a spreadsheet. There isn't any, I don't know, like if there's something that directs it to the spreadsheet or like what that all looks like on the back end.
Yeah,
There's not really any interaction after the fact. It's kind of like it goes into that spreadsheet as a repository for like myself, Mark, whoever has access to look at, and we can kind of implement things from that. But there's not a way to kind of say respond to it in a direct sense like that.
great.
And a lot of the feedback is either about steps specifically, which the steps documentation is coming from the plugins. So it's a lot harder to act on that feedback because it's you have to create the documentation and then do whatever you need to force the maintainer to review it, look at it, and um, do whatever revision it might need after that fact. So like the process for a lot of it is not easy or very good,
Yeah,
realistically speaking. For other stuff, it is actionable. Some stuff, it's not really helpful feedback, so it's not really any constructive thing we can do. Some of the feedback is provide examples, and unfortunately, I just don't have that level of knowledge that I can come up with an example to provide. Um,
right.
if there's yeah, I mean, if we I mean, if the feedback sheet itself is something I review every like, when I have time to go check it out, and Mark does too, but a lot of the feedback is either, unactionable from a direct sense in that regard or, like, just, like, tougher to do, but,
Yeah.
some stuff does get actioned on, like, without anyone really maybe realizing it too. Uh
Right, and that's another thing, it just even if it's not done, although there's the overhead of using the issue, but it would be kinda nice to have those show up in issues so people saw it.
Yeah, and I guess it's like, the other question or, like, the thought I have would be, like, how is it determined that this feedback is worth an issue or not, or like if it's going to create an issue, but it's, like I said, for like the steps documentation that's coming from the plugin
Right.
directly. So like, does it make an issue for Jenkins.io? Does it make an issue directly to that plugin? Like, what is the process itself from there? It's kind of like ambiguous, I guess.
Right. And some of it is that, I've been around people who sort of are of the philosophy, when in doubt, create an issue. And the issue can always be discussed, and we say, that's a stupid idea. We're closing this issue. We say it more nicely so we don't hurt anybody, but um, so that's part of what the philosophy is for issues within Jenkins. So, but as we're moving towards doc to code, I think using issues promiscuously like that may become more. I don't know. I kind of like it, but there's good arguments against it too. So, as I say, it's not an easy, quick solution. I think it's worth some discussion.
Yeah, no, 100%. Definitely worth the discussion. I think I don't know enough about how it kind of processes stuff to have a
Right. Even what our options are.
yeah, yeah, and like, cause I saw all this and I thought about it and I was like, well, that's a great idea, but I feel like there's a lot of pitfalls that I'm not even considering about it that like scare me at the end of the day, and I don't want this to become something like frustrating for anyone to have to deal with, whether it's like Jenkins.io maintainers or like plugin maintainers that just like realistically might not have the time of day to like worry about this sort of stuff. Because when I look at it, I genuinely have to try and filter out how many feedback comments are about a specific pipeline step
Right.
process or something. And yeah, but I worry that opening that door to everyone is going to create bad feelings for the plugin maintainers or something, or like
Right.
I don't know.
Although on the other hand, if I'm a conscientious plugin maintainer, and some of them are, I might like to know that nobody can figure out how to use this step from the documentation, that there are problems there. That flags it, and that say they really don't have another way of getting notified of that. So, I mean, and part of it is too, we could tag it of, you know, a few of, I'm thinking that a handful of them may be really, really important things that we do kind of want to bug the maintainers on. If we could have a flag for low maintenance, or there might even be some good first issues out of there or something, that if it gets done nice, and if not. I mean, another thing, just theoretically, having no idea how this works, it may be that we could implement a better way of handling these too. Maybe we have some other way that would automatically generate issues or something. Or maybe it seems to me and there is Hacktoberfest coming, by the way, too. But, I think it's an interesting issue. I'm trying to remember, if there's just an overt typo on a page, do I have the capability that I can say, I wanna fix this page, and I go and fix the typo, and it automatically generates a PR? We don't have that? Do we have that?
I think we have that, when you click on modify this page or something like that, it opens
Yeah.
a PR. I think it's the case.
I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Like if
Yeah.
I just go in here and say, because there's this report this page issue, and then there's improve this page.
Oh, yeah,
Just basically create a PR. Yeah.
Yeah, improving the page, you would be able to create the PR. Reporting the page issue is creating the issue. But I think this is what that sheet is is doing.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, this is the information that's being fed to that sheet. Because I recognize all these responses here and
Okay.
the questions they're asking. So there's three different ways to provide feedback and or edit the page. So maybe like that's another thing that we like need to consider about this is like, well, if we're gonna offer feedback but not the option to improve it, like what do we need to do to kind of bridge the gap between this and this at that point?
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's I mean, we could always say, if this is important, file an issue, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. It seems to me that it's worth thinking. It's one of those things, we've kind of done little things, and it might be worth just stepping back and looking at the big architecture and say, is this what we want? And the answer may be, yeah, anything more is not worth the effort it would take.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something that needs more discussion for sure. And like some bigger picture kind of vision when it comes to all this. Um, yeah.
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 And it'd be interesting to know, of course, Daniel Beck knows so much, is interested so much, but he has one too. Like, are there security things here that he doesn't get, security comments that he doesn't hear about or something?
Right.
So
And if
I don't know. That'd be interesting to know why Daniel. And it may just be because Daniel's Daniel and brilliant and looks at everything. But
yeah,
okay,
that might be part of it too.
yeah,
Daniel's definitely Daniel. But yeah, no, I
thank
think
God.
it's I think it's something we can definitely continue talking about, discussing, and bringing forward with us as we go through more doc office hour sessions. Um, maybe it's something that we can, especially once we have, once the retooling project is complete, maybe that's something we can look at as far as more unity between things or um, more ways to kind of like work on Jenkins documentation. That's neither here nor now, of course. That's like away from here, but yeah, I think we keep talking about this. We keep bringing this discussion into office hours. We keep the visibility here, and maybe we come up with something that makes sense at the in the long run.
I thought just
But
getting it planted in the back of everybody's head, somebody may be driving around doing something. Go, oh, we could do this.
yeah, exactly. Inspiration strikes at the oddest moments sometimes. So
It does. It does when it just percolates. So, okay, I've wasted enough of everybody's day today. I apologize.
no, it's great. I'm thank you for bringing that to the discussion, Meg. I meant to, and I just totally forgot to put it on there. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
What I have to say, Kevin, is because you've got this project running so smoothly, we can think about weird things like this. I mean, you're just
I'll take
doing a
your word for it.
job, huh?
I'll take your word.
I'm just so impressed. Everybody that I talked to, I said, you really ought to join the Jenkins doc if you want to see how an open source project for documentation could be run. You really ought to come to these meetings and take a lesson. So, very much kudos to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate that. That's
Mm.
it's a nice little feather in my cap today.
Yeah,
But,
but
yeah,
there are several feathers.
well, maybe I'll go to the zoo later and steal some. There's one not too far from us. All right.
A nice
Cool.
peacock feather would be lovely.
At least three.
Cool.
All right. Great. Well, thank you everyone so much for everything today. As always, discussion, just being participants in the documentation. Um, I know it's not the flashiest thing in the world, but I really appreciate it. I love it. It brings me joy seeing everyone here. Um, and yeah, as always, the recording will be available 24 to 48 hours. We post it on the community discourse channel. And until next time, we'll see you then. Take care, stay safe, and
Mm.
yeah, drop a line or question if you have any concerns or if anything you're curious about in our Gitter channel.
Sounds good.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.